Hey, our Lord and Saviour, he don't make no rubbish. He makes awakening wonders, and it's awakening wonders that I'm addressing right now, whether you're watching us on Twitter, YouTube, or our ultimate home, the home of free speech, Rumble. Welcome to today's show. What a show we've got. We'll be talking to James O'Keefe in a minute about his BlackRock corruption expose. I think he was just on Crowder. We've just got him. We've wrangled him over from Crowder.
Well, I think he agreed to come on ours first.
Did he?
Yeah, I think so.
They've been the very fact that we can share content. What an extraordinary world we're living in. The bidding war for JFK, not JFK. That's going to be expensive. RFK. Who's funding that debate? RFK versus Hortez is skyrocketing. It's into the millions, and I can exclusively announce we are going to put £10 into that fund. £10. Let's get that debate happening.
That should do it. That should do it.
Hortez debating RFK on vaccine efficacy. We are still on YouTube. Later on, we're going to be talking to Dr. Mark Hyman. He's going to help us to expose the medical industrial complex. You name it these days, they've got an industrial complex. There's the censorship industrial complex. Yeah. On tomorrow, I'm going to be talking to Schellenberger and Taibbi. Those couple of showboating charlatans. I'll be talking to them about censorship, and we'll be broadcasting that soon exclusively on Rumble. Our main story that we're focusing on, and that you're going to need to click Rumble in the link if you're watching us on YouTube to see us get deep with this particular subject, is the BlackRock revelatory video. Now, of course, James O'Keefe, he's famous for his performance in Oklahoma. He's famous for his expose of a former pharma worker, in particular a Pfizer worker's revelations around, stuff that we can't talk about on YouTube. Well, he's gone and done it again. This time it's with BlackRock. Now, what we're interested in here is the fact that these kind of stories, in particular a story that appears to suggest that you can purchase political power through donations, bribery. You let me know in the comments and chat what word you think is appropriate. If you're watching us on Rumble, by the way, why don't you click the red button, join us over on Locals right now, join all these people. Yes, a lot of you are focusing on James O'Keefe's performance in Oklahoma. A lot of people really like that. It was pretty extraordinary. What we know about BlackRock is they're the third largest economic entity in the world. We brought you a fantastic story about how they've done a deal with Ukraine to rebuild Ukraine after the war, setting up corporate contracts, construction contracts. We know that BlackRock is an extraordinarily powerful entity, so these allegations that BlackRock engage in the
allegedly
potentially bribery and bias, acquiring biases from, shall we say, participants in the political game is potentially groundbreaking. One of the things we wanted to point out that the individual subject, the guy that's, the recipient of the sting there, the person who's made these revelations, he's not really important. Do you agree with me? Because haven't you just always known that? Isn't it a little bit like the Epstein story? Even though you're astonished to learn that all these powerful figures apparently have relationships with Epstein and been on his jets and have been on his list and have had all these chats and have accepted his money and have lobbied for him to donate to their campaign funds, including the woman that was criticising dear Taibbi and Schellenberger. It's a confirmation of what we already suspect is true. Powerful economic entities bypass democratic process in order to pursue their agenda. Let me know if it's simply a confirmation of what you know to be true. Nevertheless, let's have a look. Me and Gareth Roy here, my on-screen assistant, will be breaking down this story and analysing the true power of BlackRock and the veracity of these claims. Also, will you see this? Let me know in the chat if you think you're going to see this story on CNN. Let me know if you think you're going to see this story on MSNBC. Why don't they cover these stories? Do you think BlackRock might own some shares in Comcast, maybe? Do you think that's a possibility? Let's have a look at the video that's causing all these trending the contretemps right now. Let's have a look.
All of these financial institutions, they buy politicians. You can take this big ton of money, and then you can start.
These whistleblowers are getting younger, aren't they? Look at that buddy boy Jack Texera, the Pentagon Papers lad. How old was he? 19? Yeah. 20? Who's giving them these jobs and access to all of this stuff?
Well, I don't know. I've no idea. I mean, I don't know if you can call him a whistleblower. Maybe an inadvertent whistleblower.
Oh, he's not blowing a whistle.
He's definitely not
He's
doing
like
that.
someone who accidentally whistles when they talk.
Right.
He's about the age of Bad Graphics Jack.
Yeah, those people that when they talk go shh. Just up.
You know what, BlackRock?
They've got a gap in their teeth.
BlackRock, they're of course giving a lot of money to the politicians. You're inadvertently blowing the whistle there. I didn't know you was filming that.
To buying people. I work for a company called BlackRock. Let me tell you, it's not who's the president is. It's who's controlling the wallet.
You can tell he's young, because that's the sort of thing you say when you, hey, guess what, man? Thanksgiving is a celebration of stealing the country from the native people. BlackRock, they're the bad guys in all of us.
And you know he's talking to a woman. The lady operating this sting is a woman, so he's blatantly trying to impress her with language like that.
BlackRock, I pull all the strings back there. I actually am establishing some deals right now with Zelensky. Oh, he's on the phone now. Oh, no, I think there's a problem with the line. Oh, no, that is him. Yeah, you get the idea.
Yeah.
So have a look.
So it's the
And who's that?
The hedge funds, BlackRock, the banks. These guys run campaign financing. Yep, you can buy your candidates. Obviously, we have the system in place. First, there's the senators, and these guys are rich. You got 10 grand, you can buy a senator. I can give you 500K.
He's a little braggart, isn't he? I don't want to focus on the lad, because he's just some lad. He's just working in recruitment, isn't he? He's not actually the leader of BlackRock.
It's not Larry Fink.
It's not Larry Fink out there. Larry Fink would keep his mouth shut. I'd imagine he knows what he's doing, dear old Larry Fink. What happened, I suppose, and let me know in the comments in the chat, join us on Rumble, press the red button, is that BlackRock will deny the credibility of the story, say that they're not really associated with him, it'll become a tribalised debate and argument, and the mainstream media won't report on it. That's primarily what will happen. And those of us that have long suspected that politicians can be acquired through money will continue to believe that, and people that sort of just want things to basically stay the same won't bother to interrogate the subject. Together, BlackRock and Vanguard own 18% of Fox News. Perhaps that's why it's not getting covered. 16% of CBS, 13% of Comcast, which owns NBC, MSNBC, and CNBC. So the very fact that those three entities are owned by one conglomeration is interesting, isn't it? And the Sky Media Group, that's in our country. 12% of CNN, 12% of Disney. That's a considerable amount of media influence. Is that too much? When we talk about duopolies in politics and big tech, when we talk about monopolies, when we talk about globalism, do you imagine that this is a contributory factor? Are you surprised by these revelations? And let us know what your questions are for James O'Keefe. He'll be turning up here. He's probably warming up his voice even now, gargling salt water, getting ready to bang out some show tunes for us. What do you want to? Have you got something to say about all of this, Gareth?
It gets really interesting when he starts talking about the war in Ukraine as well.
Oh, he's going to talk about the war in Ukraine now, because that you know, it's one thing turning a profit from a little bit of corruption and buying domestic politicians. I think most of us assume that's the case already. We're weary with their corruption. But if wars are being created, provoked, prolonged in order to generate profit, is that a big story? Should we care? Have you lost the ability to care? Do you care?
No, no questions asked.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. It's done.
Does everybody do that? Does BlackRock do that?
It doesn't matter who wins.
They're so good.
They're in my pocket at this point. Ukraine.
I'm in charge of the government, actually. I'm in control of this. See these chopsticks of mine? I use that to control government. See, he's gotten a bit carried away.
You haven't got a pocket.
Where's that? Is that even a pocket? Who has got a pocket? The journalist you're talking to. Everything is being recorded. Oh, I do feel sorry for that, because he's just presumably a normal sort of low-level drone worker recruiting for BlackRock. This is not the epicenter of global corruption here. It's just one of the many denizens of a habitat of pure corruption that all of us know exists by now.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's reporting on the culture, not about his just singular behaviour.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Hortez. Is that his name, the fella that won't debate RFK even after he's not heard about my 10 quid yet? That's not what's important. What's important is a culture of censorship, a culture of surveillance, a culture of smearing dissenters. That's what's significant. You can't target individuals. What's the point? Is that we're talking about systemic change here.
Is good for business. You know, right? I'll give an example. Russia blows up Ukraine's grain silos. Price of wheat's going to go mad up. Ukrainian economy is tied very largely to the wheat market, global wheat market. Prices of bread, literally everything goes up and down. This is fantastic if you're trading. Volatility creates opportunity to make profit. War is real good for business. It's exciting when goes wrong.
People in the chat are disgusted. Pride Faults says he's talking about the destruction of people here. Firegirl 2020. This guy's like in kindergarten, but I'm glad the youth are catching on. Oh, you've known this for ages, didn't you? You lot. In a way, it's sort of surprising that that's the sort of stuff he chats about on dates. But who here is surprised by that? Let me know in the chat if this is a astonishing revelation or if these are the kind of things you've long assumed, if you've known since God, basically the 1960s, that the state operates on behalf of corporate interests. It's a trend that's been getting worse and worse, and you can track it through various administrations till we reach this point. Corporate gigantism, where democracy becomes almost redundant, where there's no trust in any institutions at all, not media, not government, not electoral, democracy itself. Are you surprised by these revelations? Do you believe these revelations? What do you think is the most interesting thing about them, Gareth? I know that what you think is important is the idea that war is being used to mobilise profit.
When he's talking there about wheat and Ukraine and how the prices fluctuate due to that and how BlackRock can profit from that, I mean, we know that that's happening anyway. We know that the kind of food crisis is going on in the US and in the UK or across Europe at the moment. It's to do with the price gouging of companies that are using the opportunity for war to charge people more for the daily products that they buy. That is something that goes on, and that the companies that do it lobby Congress. They spend millions lobbying Congress to mean that Biden and the rest of the government don't do anything about it. You know, when it comes to another element of the war, weapons, I mean, that some of the largest weapons companies in the world, Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, have been, since the start of the Ukraine war, bragging to investors that tensions between the countries are good for business. BAE Systems have gone up 32%, Lockheed Martin have gone up 14%. These aren't, I guess, you know, it's interesting to see someone actually on camera admitting it. But these things are things that we already know about through just literally what's happening.
Apologetic Pest says in the locals chat, I'm not sure why we're watching some clip of a smug millennial eating Chinese food and talking about wheat shortages. We are a hardened and skeptical crew, aren't we? Because we are awakening wonders. And if you're watching us now on YouTube, click the link in the description. Join us over on Rumble. James O'Keefe, who broke this story, is going to be joining us in just a few minutes. And you can post your questions for him here in the chat, and we'll ask him some stuff that I suppose takes him to the very limit of his capabilities.
Yeah, the other element, obviously, what we're talking about here is that kind of collusion between government and massive corporate companies like BlackRock. When we come to the Ukraine reconstruction and BlackRock's part in that, so it says here, there's an article by Caitlin Johnson, critics have complained that BlackRock's new role in Ukraine could draw accusations of corruption, with some noting that the company's managing director, Eric Van Nostrand, was hired straight into a senior advisory position in the Biden administration's Treasury Department just this past August, explicitly to shape US economic policy on Russia and Ukraine. So there is a literal link between BlackRock and the Biden administration in terms of their strategy towards Ukraine, in terms of the reconstruction of Ukraine. They all know what's happening and they're all involved.
So are you astonished by these revelations, or is it merely a confirmation of what you have long suspected? What's next? What is it going to take? What level, degree of revelation would it require for you to stop participating in this model? Yet another story that demonstrates ties between the media, the military-industrial complex, the government. It's, I suppose at this point, it's difficult to maintain anything other than vague disappointment. Listen, we're going to leave you now because James O'Keefe, is James O'Keefe there? Let's just have a look at him on YouTube. He's the sort of person that gets YouTube strikes, I would imagine. So let's be very, yeah, no, look at him. He's there, he's got his backdrop, his shirt's too undone. For God's sake, James. Right, listen. If you want to see James undo another button, simply press the link in the description and join us over on Rumble. We'll be talking to Dr. Mark Hyman a little later. Plus, what's our presentation today?
Peter Hotez.
Ah, Peter Ho says we're covering that story in some depth. You're keen to talk on YouTube, are you, James? Look at, I can see him warming up. He's licking his lips with anticipation. He's probably going to break another story. Now, remember, we're on YouTube, so don't say anything too controversial before we go over on Rumble. Do you want to say something, James, or are you going to do a few bars of Oklahoma?
I mean, I could sing Poor Judd is Dead. Last time I sang the title sequence.
Just give us, yeah, do a little bit. I think if that's what drives people from YouTube to Rumble, let's give it a go.
Poor Judd is dead. Poor Judd Fry is dead. Gather round his coffin now and cry. There you go.
That was a way. Whoever was backing you on your former channel, their money, I think it was well invested.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't call that corruption.
No.
If singing like that's a crime, you can lock me up and throw away the key. You can call me Hunter Biden, baby.
Allegedly.
Because I'm as criminal as they come. Join us over on I think he's pleaded guilty. It's a plea bargain, right? I don't think we've said anything wrong there. I think that's okay.
That's
okay,
fine.
all right, listen, as you can see, things are hotting up. O'Keefe's singing show tunes. Let's go over here and expose some deep corruption and bring about a spiritual revolution. We're also going to be talking about the newest Rumble participant, RFK. Why won't this debate happen? And if it does happen, you know where it will. Click the link, join us over on Rumble.